Hi everyone, very good evening and welcome back to CAIIB with CGB Mentors. So in this particular class, we are going to talk about some questions on compliance governance and compliance risk. Let us start. See, number one question that we have is, which of the following is not a responsibility of compliance department when it comes to regulatory reporting? So over here in this particular question, you have to talk about that what are the responsibilities have been given to the compliance department. कल भी हमने इससे related questions किए थे and we have seen that eventually this particular department has got the responsibilities regarding the rules and regulations. Yes or no? Right. Let's have a look on to the questions. So, just a second. Yes. So, number one, we have centralizing regulatory reporting under compliance department for banks, okay, with core banking solution. Maintaining a monthly returns calendar to track timely submission of reports in other banks. Preparing financial statements for external audit. Ensuring that all regulatory guidelines are distributed. So you have to remember that as per RBI guidelines, a compliance department has got these functions, but out of these you will find out preparing financial statement is not a function of compliance department. Why it is not a function? Because compliance department oversees that whether you have followed rules or regulations or not. It will never do the operational work for you. ये कभी भी आपके लिए operational work नहीं करेंगे and that is why this is wrong. Right? Option C is the correct answer. So preparing financial statement for external audit, this is not a function of compliance department. Now next they are asking, which of the following is not a criteria for independence of compliance department? Okay, not a criteria. The compliance staff salary should not be linked to performance of any business line. Okay, fine. Yes, this very well keeps the independence intact, right? So where I'm not linking your salary to any kind of business line, that is great, that is good. Now, chief compliance officer cannot be removed by CEO without board approval. Okay, fine. The compliance department must handle internal audit to ensure independence, and the compliance department should undergo independent reviews regularly. Now, out of these, you can easily find out which one is odd, right? हम आसानी से यहाँ पर find out कर सकते हैं. The compliance department must handle internal audit functions to ensure independence. This is wrong. This is not a criteria. Internal audit is there to check any discrepancies, and this is none of RBI's mandate that a compliance officer has to see it. ठीक है, ऐसा कोई mandate नहीं है कि बस इन्हीं को देखना पड़ेगा. Next we have, what is the minimum frequency at which board of directors must review the compliance function? कितने duration पे board of directors को review करना चाहिए? Once every year, once every 6 months, once every 3 months, once every 2 years. So over here the duration is 3 months. हर 3 महीने में एक बार, हर quarter में the board of directors has to review the compliance function, whether it is functioning properly or not, what are the reports it has given, right, how they are progressing, etc., etc. Now next we have, which of the following is not included in the annual compliance risk assessment report? कौन सा नहीं include है? Details of compliance failure, okay, you have to give it. A list of all employees who have received promotions, progress in resolving issues identified, and systems and controls available to reduce the compliance risk. See, annual compliance risk assessment report that you need to submit, right? Compliance department has to submit this. What is this? Annual compliance risk assessment report. Now, but in this, You don't have to give the list of promotions the employees have received. This is anyway is not even justifying that what are the rules and regulations you need to follow. ऐसा तो कुछ आपको justify किया नहीं जा रहा कि कौन से rules and regulations follow करने हैं. So this should not be the criteria, right? Then I have, what is the role of compliance department when a bank launches a new product? आपसे पूछा जा रहा है, what is the role of the compliance department when a bank launches a new product? So to design the marketing strategy, to approve the product after ensuring compliance risk, to outsource compliance testing, to delegate compliance responsibility to the product development team. Over here, if you see in these two options, you are talking about whether we can delegate to a third party or not. But eventually, if you really want to test something, you have to take the responsibility on your head. ठीक है, आपको अपने head पे लेनी पड़ेगी responsibility. So over here, what you can do is, you have to approve the product, but before you have to see that all the compliance risks are addressed or not. Right? Whether you are complying with the grammage related requirement, are you complying with the MRP laws or not, right? Etc. etc. This is just an example, generic example of compliance risk. But apart from that, what your product, if you suffer from different kind of, just a second. If you suffer with different kind of laws, rules and regulation, you have to face them, then you need to have compliance risk assessed for that. Next you have, which of the following is not a required feature of good compliance policy? Clearly defining structure, very important. Allowing the department to merge with internal audit, not required. Defining the responsibilities of staff, ensuring compliance with fair practices code and anti-money laundering regulation. Everything else is a feature of good compliance policy, but we are not going to merge this with internal audit department. They both have their own tasks to do. Internal audit, they check each and every transaction, right? It is a continuous thing to happen, and they ensure that you have not committed any compliance related mistake, and at the same time you might not have committed any human error. They want to see that whether any fraud is happening or not. So the goal in internal audit is to keep internal as well as external stakeholders happy. दोनों को ही खुश रखना. Whereas in relation to the what you can say, if we talk about the compliance, here we are ensuring that whatever statutory rules, regulation, laws that has been mandated by the government should be complied with. ठीक है? Next is, what is the primary reason for appointing a senior officer of deputy general manager level or equivalent as the CCO, that is Chief Compliance Officer, to ensure sufficient authority to focus on operational tasks, to reduce the cost of compliance, to enable to take over internal audit responsibility. This is the correct answer. But over here, you have to ensure that why a senior officer of deputy general manager level, right? DGM level officer is appointed as Chief Compliance Officer as per the RBI guideline. ठीक है? RBI says that who shall you appoint as CCO? So you will appoint an officer of Deputy General Manager level or beyond, so that he has got sufficient authority and independence. What is not, which of the following is not a valid use of performance indicators? To identify areas where the failures are most likely, predict future compliance risk, replace human judgment, compare compliance risk. See, why we always have the performance indicators? See, indicators help us to early identify any problem, right? अगर आपको कोई प्रॉब्लम आइडेंटिफाई करनी है, then in that case indicators are helpful. So this helps you to identify the area where the failures can occur, right? It helps you to compare the compliance risk across different departments. So different departments in your bank that you have, whether they are able to comply or not, right? Next, to predict future compliance risk based on past trends, that is also fine, but you cannot replace the human judgment. ठीक है, आप कभी भी human judgment को replace नहीं कर सकते by virtue of any performance indicators that you can bring in. Next you have question 9. So what is the role of local compliance staff in international operations? So why you will have local compliance staff in case of an international operations of a bank, right? Handle customer complaints, act as sole point of contact, focus solely on global standards to ensure compliance with the local laws, right? Because a person who's a resident of India will understand the Indian laws in a better way, right? So that is why we have a local, what you can say, staff for a bank if they are having international operations to ensure the compliance with local laws also. Now, compliance risk. So, which of the following is not a key element of compliance risk as defined by the Basel Committee? Basel Committee: legal, regulatory non-compliance, material financial loss, reputational damage, strategic misalignment, right? Everything else is a part of compliance risk. If you are doing legal non-compliance, you are not following any particular laws. If there is a material financial loss, right? If there is a reputational damage, but strategic misalignment, right? You know, strategies are made at top level, and what top level has dictated and what the middle management has followed, if that is not aligning, it will not have any, what you can say, impact on the compliance. इसका compliance पे तो कोई impact नहीं पड़ेगा. So Basel Committee says that compliance risk includes legal non-compliance, material financial loss, reputational damage, failure to adhere internal policies. Strategic misalignment is obviously not explicitly a part of compliance risk. Now, which one of the following is not an essential ingredient of due diligence in compliance risk management? Effective systems that focus on results rather than process, proactive culture, outsourcing compliance to third party, ensuring sufficient resources. So over here, this is incorrect, right? If you have got due diligence in compliance, you are never going to delegate these responsibilities to a third party. आप कभी भी ये responsibilities third party को delegate नहीं करेंगे. Then you are having, what is the formula for calculating the residual risk in the operational risk management? So again, this is residual risk is equals to inherent risk multiplied by the control risk, right? So over here, residual risk का मतलब क्या है? See, I have an organization. We invest in shares, right? Now to hedge my position, I have invested in derivatives too. That means I have secured my risk, right? Even after doing so, even after applying the mitigation tool, if there is anything remaining and I cannot overcome that, that is called as the residual risk, and it is inherent in the nature of business. For example, imagine a cotton factory, right? Cotton is an item which is very prone for with the risk of fire, right? So that is inherent. If tomorrow, if I am having loss by fire, I cannot control it, right? I cannot control it. So there is a risk which is beyond my control, and that is something I call as residual risk. Now, which of the following is not a factor used to identify compliance risk in bank's business line? Regulatory environment, nature of products, geographic presence, shareholder preferences, right? So what shareholders are thinking will never be counted as my compliance risk factor. Regulatory environment, important. Nature of product, important. Geographic presence, important. But shareholder presence, not important, right? Which of the following is not included in the scope of operational risk? क्या include नहीं होता? Natural disaster, mismanaged employees, strategic risk from poor business decision, System failures, obviously natural disasters. This does not comes, right? So over here आपके natural disasters जो हैं वो आपका operational risk का part नहीं बनेगा. Next is what is the compliance risk score range for high risk? High risk का score आपका obviously whichever is the highest one. So compliance risk scores are categorized like this: 7.1 to 10, 5.1 to 7, 3.1 to 5, and 1 to 3 minimal risk. So this is rated like this. This is how we rank the compliance risk. Now, which of the following is not a responsibility of compliance function in managing the compliance risk? So, proactively identifying the risk, conducting integrity checks, managing liquidity risk, investigating alleged misconduct. See, compliance function is not responsible for doing something upfront. They are responsible for judging the task you have done. Okay, so we will identify and assess the risk. We will conduct the checks to assess the risk, right? We will investigate the misconduct, but we will not actually manage something, be it preparation of your financial statements or managing the liquidity risk. None of the things would be done over here. Now, what is the frequency of reviewing the high risk account under the loan review mechanism? कितनी बार banks को ये करना चाहिए? And it comes under your compliance risk calculation every month, every 3 months, every 6 months, or annually. So every 3 months it needs to be done, right? High risk accounts को every 3 months, average risk accounts every 6 months, and low risk accounts annually should be done the review. And which of the following is not a key component of effective audit program? So prioritizing audits based on shareholder concern is obviously not a good thing. Whenever you are doing the compliance audit, ensure that all applicable rules and regulations they are adhered to. There should be clear documentation and communication and identification of all violations and risks. Sare risks and sare violations should be identified, and this is what will ensure a good compliance audit. So this is it in this particular class.